Hi guys, so today we're gonna talk about would you look good with black or dark hair? To answer that question, we have to know some additional information about coloring. So I recommend you to watch 4 of my videos before. So first of all, 5 types of contrast. Then we talked about the temperature, are you cool or warm, and that scale. Then we talked about are you soft or clear in coloration, again talking about your contrast level. And then we talked about eye color. You should also check that video, it was my last video. So it would all be much clearer for you today. So dark hair or black hair, it's pretty big generalization because there can be several types of black hair. There can be several types of dark brown hair. Black hair with bluish undertone to it, blue-black, silver shine to it. Some of them can be very dark brown. Some of them are slightly on a warmer side. They still are very intense, very black, but slightly on a warmer side. Now, there can be dark brown hair which has some reddish reflection of the light on the surface. And also there can be off black hair. Yeah, it looks black and it looks pretty cool, but it's slightly ashy. It's not as intense. It looks a bit more dull and it reflects a little bit more light. Of course, it would be stupid now to talk about women who already have black hair from nature. If they would look good with blonde hair, that's another question. I have a video about that too, so you can check that. But still, we're gonna talk today about all the colorations, all the contrast levels of women, from very small amount of contrast to the very high contrasted ladies. Also, when I was researching on that subject and I was looking at so many different pictures, it was a little bit harder to spot because when I talked about blonde hair color, it's kind of obvious that person just colored her hair blonde. It's pretty rare when somebody has naturally platinum blonde hair in the street or like very light bright yellow, so you kind of can predict that she used some kind of a bleaching products for her hair. But in this case, in case of black hair and dark brown hair, it was pretty hard for me to spot, so I checked loads of pictures like before and after. She was black, she was blonde. Before we go to your particular coloration, let me first explain some general rules about black hair. First of all, black hair, black color, is very intense. It absorbs light, it's pretty rich, it's pretty saturated, it's pretty clear color, it's very understandable from the distance, it's not complicated, it doesn't have any highlights, lowlights, it doesn't have any shadows or light spots from the distance on any background, it just looks like one separate piece. So when we talk about women who don't have any black hair on their body, just in general, for them it will be a little bit harder to wear that very dark black color on their body because normally women with a very black hair and dark hair, they have first of all darker hair on their face and on their body in general. That hair is slightly thicker. Blonde hair, they're normally thinner just by nature, and black hair is pretty thick. Not always. I've seen some soft dark brown hair, but still they look thicker and they are thicker. And also the brows, if we talk about the brows, if we talk about the lashes, all that matters and all that we can perceive when looking at the person who colored her hair. If all the hair on her body is very thin and very light and blonde, then if she colors her hair black, that's a lot of work, if this work can be done in the first place. But we're gonna go to that later. That is one myth that I hear from time to time, and I think it's myth. They say that black hair slims down your face and light hair widens your face. Not really so, unless you are making picture of yourself and unless your hair is right here by your face and unless it's not lying on your face but has some space between your cheek and between the hair. So what happens in this case, if you have black hair here, it just doesn't reflect light on your cheek there inside. So your cheek looks darker. It's kind of like contouring powder, if we can say so. It's just natural shadow. But it only if you have this light, certain light shining on you, you have that certain position of the hair by your face. So this way it can create some shadows on sides of your face. But as far as in real life, you're always moving, you're walking, your hair can whether lie on your cheeks like that, then it won't just give that effect at all. Or it can just be on the back where it can move, and then you lose this effect. Same with white hair or light hair. It reflects light, especially if you're outside and they're lying here by your face. Light reflects from your light hair to the cheek, so you don't have those shadows on your face here. So that part of your face is slightly lightened. But again, if we talk about stiff situation, about pictures and stuff, in real life it's pretty rare when you can catch this moment. So I think it's not that a black slims down your face. I think it just shows your real outline of your face. That's all it does. If your face is lighter than this black color, if your skin is even a little bit slightly lighter than this black, it will just show you real shape of your face. Because it's a contrasted color, it will work as a frame. And if you have light hair, it's not that it widens your face. it basically washes off the outline of your face. It becomes uneven, uncertain, and especially from different angles, the light is moving, you're moving, it's slightly harder to spot. It's just the attention doesn't go in there. So your face is not necessarily becoming wider or slimmer, it's just less visible. It's a little bit more washed off. It's kind of blended, it's kind of blurred. Another thing that black hair color does, or very dark hair color does, it can put some attention on the shadows on your face. And if your face has prominent bones, prominent cheekbones, prominent features, so the eyes can compare that dark color with the dark color of your shadows of your face, as opposed to lighter areas on your face. Is it good or bad? It depends. You can watch this video, hair color for the body types. We talk about bone structure in there. We talk about the body types. We talk about how bone structure and color interact, because for some women, they would look very sick and tired if they don't have those shadows on their face supported by intense hair color. And some women, on contrary, they look just softer, just better if their hair color is slightly softer, slightly highlighted, and not as contrasted, and doesn't emphasize those shadows on the face, and on contrary makes them softer and reflects light more of their face. They just look more harmonized. But that is another subject. Also, another thing, if any skin color has some grayishness or ashiness in their skin, especially if there's a lot of ashiness, then real black color, jet black, it can interact with those grays. See, people's eyes are looking for similarities. They're comparing things. I'll show you the example. Look on this picture. What do you see? Did you see that blue color? Of course you did. Because everything else was pretty much same color, but those two accents, one object and another object, were same color. You notice that your eyes compared those objects very fast, and it found that they match. And our eyes are even trying to match even more. If those colors are identical, they're close, our eyes still will try to match them to find how they're matching. Same with our complexion. Let's say if she has that grayshness on her skin, then other people's eyes, when they're looking at her, they try to find same similarity, same tone in their skin, and what they find there, they find grayshness. So the grayshness is coming forward slightly, so they can look slightly ashier than they are. Especially when the black color and dark brown color, it's very intense, it's very bright and clear, and sometimes with that brightness, that grayshness can show off more. Earthiness, it can emphasize sometimes under eye circles. Again, for some women. Or maybe some women can have some oliveness on the skin, so their face can look slightly grayish green next to that very intense black color. So always check that. Another fact, which is very important, everything next to black color becomes more ashy, less contrasted, more muted, more discolored, dusty and dull, as a contrast again. You have to keep that in mind when you analyze your coloration, so you would know what would you look like next to very rich black color. Another important thing, as far as black color, pure black color, considered to be on a cooler side, on more clear and on the darker side, it will be least flattering on women with opposite coloration, on light, warm, and on ashy women. If she's light, warm, and ashy, her contrast level is so low because everything is very light in her complexion. So let's just compare it very fast. So here I'm placing the pictures of ladies who are light, warm, and soft. And here we place the ladies who are cool and clear. So as far as these ones are opposite to these ones, and they have same description as black color, basically. Black color is also cool, clear. They are also cool, clear. So for these ladies, this color will work. Also, important thing here is we're not talking about the costume thing. We're not talking about the wigs, heavy makeup, presenting a certain image. Let's say you are doing photo session. You can definitely fake it to the point so you would look, even if you're the lightest and the warmest, you would look amazing with black hair. It can be done with clothes and with right makeup. I'm mostly talking about the women who just want to look great in their everyday life, who want to find their signature look, who want to have the effortless beauty every day in the morning. So if we talk about that, then we really have to consider of how much effort we have to spend every week, every 2 weeks, or even every day in order to support that new hair color that is so bright, that is so cool, so intense, and so dark. There can be lighter black colors with some warmth to it. Sometimes that can be the answer. Some women, they just don't look very good with that very intense black hair. But as soon as they make it slightly lighter, just brown, just a bit warmer, just slightly, then their skin changes, their eyes changes, you know? Now let's go to our contrast scale. First, let's talk about the least contrasted women, -2 contrast, meaning they have very light eyes, light skin, light hair. naturally, starting from albinos to just pale complexion women. They have a lot of white color added to them, and we talked about that in my Are You Soft or Bright video. So they have a lot of white color. They even don't have as much gray color in their coloring. There's just a lot of light color and pale colors, very pale yellows, very pale blues, and very pale pinks. Their brows and their lashes are normally so light, or they're so thin, they're like feathers. If they color their brows, let's say, if they dye their brows with permanent hair color, special for brows and for lashes, that can look slightly better, but then every week more and more of those hair will fall off and new ones start growing. It starts looking super patchy. You have to always do that. Also, that hair is gonna be very, very thin, almost transparent, and the overall complexion is very light and transparent. Their eyes are normally not very contrasted. They don't have that bright color. Dark hair is bright color, and they don't have bright color. They're all bleached, especially if they have very little amount of hair here. It will be very hard to fake, especially when women are just doing makeup on their brows. If they cover their brows completely with brow pomade or something like that. So if they cover that completely, that is very visible. It looks super heavy on their delicate face, as if there's just two black stones or two black bricks. It looks very heavy on their face. Their face and their skin, everything is slightly transparent. The capillaries looking through, they look slightly glossy. So in real life, it can be slightly hard. Even if they make their brows darker and their lashes darker, it still can be not enough, because their overall appearance will be very pale and very bleached. They might look sick in that, or they might look like they're wearing a wig. Especially if they have freckles, you know, freckles and black hair, there's something that doesn't match in there unless you're doing that special photo set or you want to go intentionally for that look. But if you want to go for a natural look, as if it's supposed to be that way, and you just wearing that black color, you became a brunette, that cannot match. If we talk about -1 contrast level, except for white color, they already have some gray color or just some color added to them. Some more beiges, some more ashiness, some more oranges maybe, some more blues, clearer blues. So they are slightly darker. They're still on a lighter side, but it's kind of like white and gray together. So as far as they already have darker coloration, here we can see how much hair they have on their face at the first place. In general, it's still pretty hard to make black hair or very intense dark hair match them, because I will show you why. But before, I want to show you one example when that did work, and that is Cara Delevingne. When I checked her childhood pictures, she's closer to natural blonde. Not only in the childhood, when she got older, she also had that pretty light ashy blonde. Her brows are actually not as dark. They're just bushy. She just has a lot of hair on her brows. She dyed her brows black color. The hair on her brows started looking very thick and very intense. So she could really fake that black hair when she was trying that wig. You could sometimes even think that she probably has the bright hair, dark hair naturally, just because of those features. She has mascara that sometimes can be enough to fake darker lashes, right? So you see, she already has that slightly stronger thing going on in here, so that black hair doesn't look too heavy on her. However, it's pretty rare. I would say that in majority cases, especially for women who has very soft and warm complexion in that category of contrast, they probably have greenish eyes. Their complexion is slightly yellowish with some gray to it and some white to it. That is totally opposite to black color. So they can end up having that Elvira look. So look on those pictures. They are on the lighter side, right? So they look lighter in general. Their lashes and their brows, especially their brows, it seems like it's very easy to do, but you know, it's like, yeah, I color my hair, yeah, I become a brunette, then I will just add a little bit more color on my brows. It's not always working that way, because to make brows look really natural, if you're changing their color completely, again, you have to dye them every week or two, so it would not look patchy if you want that natural look. Because if you have light hair on your brows and you use dark brow products, they're gonna look very unnatural and as if you are just drawing them. And in some cases, if you have oily skin, that color will reflect light, as if you have bold brows here and you're just adding them with that solid color. Even sometimes microblading doesn't help as much, because the overall complexion can be pretty delicate. Again, especially with those greener eyes, ladies, because black color is still on the cooler side. It cools them down, but everything else is kind of warmed up, light and warmed up. Now, if we talk about zero contrast ladies, they already have more color in them. They normally have whether a lot of gray to them, them. Or a lot of bright colors like bright red, bright blue on the eyes, something like that. Women with clearer coloration, especially if they're cool tone, they can try to fake that. Again, need to see sometimes their eye color is still not as intense. It's still pretty uncontrasted, pretty muddy, pretty uncertain. So sometimes black hair will remove completely her face. In Russia, there are loads of women with zero contrast, and there are many of them who have very ashy complexion. Mousy hair, for example, brown plus gray. Some muddy eyes, hazel eyes, gray eyes, something dusty, something not certain. Maybe some ashiness in the skin. Skin is still pretty light, but it's not too white and shining, let's say, from within. However, we have those too, but when we're looking on ashy girls in that category, sometimes they feel they don't have enough contrast, they're not enough bright. They just want to make themselves brighter, so they dye their hair bright black. What they end up with, they wake up in the morning and they look in the mirror because they always thought that their lashes and brows are pretty dark actually, but they never compared it to real dark and real intense color. And as soon as they compare it to that black color, everything looks blurred and totally disappearing. It just looks like it was added on Photoshop from the different picture. So what they try to do, they try to make their brows much more intense. Many of them try to make their brows very thin. It is because they sometimes feel like when they make it very thick, then it really looks very heavy on their face, because their face is pretty delicate. Some of these women don't have very prominent and very blunt and strong features of their faces. Their facial bones are somewhere in between. They can be delicate, they can be slightly larger, but not as prominent as and intense. So they feel like those thick and dark brows are look too heavy, because dark color adds heaviness, like visual weight to things, and the size adds visual weight to things, right? So the thickness and the color of the brows like drags everything down. They feel like it's too heavy, so they want to make it lighter in weight, in visual weight. How are they gonna make it? Of course, plugging them and making them very thin. Then they feel like they don't have enough color in their eyes. They start doing very rich makeup. Especially, they very often they don't do enough blending because they feel like their features have to be stronger and sharper from the distance. That's right. They're kind of following nature, you see? But they're just going slightly to a different direction because they kind of supposed to be northern and more blended. And then they feel, after they've done all that, super bright makeup of their eyes, super thin and black brows, they look in the mirror, what happens with their skin? Their skin starts lacking of that beige and peachiness, especially if she has that very grayish complexion. Pretty grayish and slightly dull skin. Skin that is not shining from within. Skin that is not clear. What happens? Again, eyes are trying to match that black color and trying to match something in their face. What it finds ashiness, paleness, because of the contrast. Face becomes paler. Even if she had some natural blush before, she doesn't have it now anymore. Grayishness, those shadows under her eyes, those shadows by her nose, all those shadows get increased. All those bumps and larger pores also start speaking with that black color until she's doing a lot of makeup. This is why they get a lot of fake tan to make their skin darker and warmer, kind of give them life back. See, it's still different from those Snow White type women. We're gonna talk about this soon. That is slightly different from them because they still have some muddiness and grayishness in their complexion. So that kind of removes the facial features from them if we place something solid, black and dark with their face. Also, another important thing that I forgot to tell you at the beginning, black hair or dark brown hair looks very solid. This color is very even. It doesn't have any highlights, any dimensions, any shadow pieces, lighter pieces. So it's not playing with the light. It's very understandable and clear from the distance. It's outlining the shape very thoroughly. So comparing to that, eyes start comparing that face, and the face consists many complicated tones, colors, shapes, shadows, wrinkles. So if the face consists of loads of that, some swollenness, so our eyes kind of compare that very clean and solid color, very understandable, with something more complicated here. So all the features close to that kind of hair become more prominent. All those discolorations become also more readable. It's not bad, it's just sometimes what is happening. And if we talk about women with red hair that are still on zero contrast level, let's say they have pretty bright and clear clear complexion. Let's say they have pretty clear eyes. They're already closer to black, right? Because black is clear and pretty cool color. So in this case, they have to see also on the lashes and the brows, which is very important, especially if they're thick, it's good. Then the freckles, if they want to hide them. And then they have to think about maybe dark brown would be better than black, because many of them have warmer coloration. Especially the ones with hazel eyes, with brown eyes, and maybe slightly yellowish undertone in their skin, that can really clash with that black hair. Black hair can really make them look sallow, very yellowish, earthy, separate. There are also some women in that category, zero contrast, that can have pretty ashy hair, but their skin is pretty clear and their eye color is very clear blue, let's say. So they can rock that. Sometimes it happens that women like that, they have slightly dirtier hair color. Their skin is clear. Their eyes are pretty clear blue color, let's say. So for them, that can look very pretty. Of course, it also depends on facial features and stuff. For that, again, you can watch my video about hair colors for the body types. But in general, this is when it can look pretty good. For example, see on this picture, this girl, I don't find that this hairstyle and that color itself fits the bone structure. But if we look on her eyes and her skin, that black color along with them doesn't make her look very sick and tired. Her eyes are pretty bright and intense, and her skin color doesn't contain too much ashiness, so that ashiness doesn't pop. But here we have a girl also with light eyes, pretty light hair, also with zero contrast. She is not too light, not too dark, somewhere in the middle, but she's a bit more ashy. She's on the grayer side, she's muted, she's not as clear. So for her, that black hair can look slightly like a wig, like separate. +1 contrast level. In +1 contrast level, we already have a bit more color added to their complexion. They can have darker skin, darker eyes. We have here like already brown eyes, rarer black eyes. Black eyes are so intense, so we put them into +2 category. But here we still have women with whether bright blue eyes, they can have bright blue or dark blue eyes, or dark hazel eyes, or brown eyes. Amber eyes also can present in this category. If they have a lot of oliveness in their skin, a lot of ashiness in their skin, they are slightly dull, muddy, muted. In this case, black hair can look slightly too heavy on them and slightly lifeless. As soon as they get it rich chocolate, let's say, or maybe slightly lighter brown colors, you know, sometimes that softer brown color can look amazing on women with slightly muddy but still dark and intense brown eyes, let's say. So you can't make a mistake if you match your hair color to your eye color. Let's say your eye color is dark brown, you make your hair same color as your eyes, it can look pretty interesting. If that looks too heavy, you can always add some highlights so it would have some dimension to it. If you feel like it's too solid, it's too separate, and you have a lot of you on your face going on, so it can just distract attention and make the whole thing a little bit more complicated, and add some shadows and light pieces in there. It will look three-dimensional, maybe ashy brown with some highlights. Beyonce, she has some ashiness on her skin a little bit, so when she did that black hair on herself, everything else kind of looked slightly warm and slightly dusty compared to that clear, intense black color. So every time she made her hair slightly lighter on the darker brown side, let's say, it looked overall much softer. Also, women in this category, when they make black hair and it doesn't suit them very well, they feel like they have lack of life. It's not mostly about the brows that they care most of. It's mostly about the makeup. They try to add a lot of bronzer, shine, peachy tones blush, reddish blush on, so they try to put some life back in there. They try to experiment with colors. They feel like they need to add some colors in them, because with that black color, their appearance kind of becomes slightly lifeless. Now, if women in this category are clear colored and cool, they can look gorgeous with black hair. This is when we get those Snow Whites. If she has black eyes, let's say, and slightly discolored hair, but very clear skin color, she can try black hair and she can actually look amazing with them. Or she has very, very clear blue eyes, or very clear green eyes, but green blue better because if she's cool toned. And if her skin also is clear, again, I talk about this in this video, are you soft or clear? If you have that coloration, then yes, then that black hair can look very beautiful on you. You can always try some wigs. Better if you make a selfie in a black wig with a natural light and no makeup, please, because if you're wearing makeup, it won't show you the real picture, how you're gonna look in the morning. And then when you make a selfie, if you look at it right away and then delete, you still didn't distract your eyes from that image. They just saw it. Get back to this picture in several days. You will be very surprised how much more details you see in terms of colors and in general. You might whether see that your face kind of blends all together and hair looks separate, or your eyes look as bright as it looked before, your skin looks as bright as it looked before, and you don't feel like you have to apply tons of makeup. Maybe you just like to correct some lines or just correct some shapes, that's okay, but just in general. Maybe you feel like you want to apply some mascara and good to go. That is a good indicator that black hair can really suit you. If we talk about +2 contrast level, they probably already have black hair, or at least very intense hair color, let's say dark brown. They probably have very intense eye color, let's say black or very dark brown. So many of them are cool colored, many of them are clear colored. If they're slightly dusty, again, maybe think more into dark brown direction. But many of them probably, if they're cool, if they have dark brown eyes or black eyes, if they're clear in skin, probably they already have black hair. In this case, rules are very similar as to +1 contrast. Alright, that's it. Hope that was interesting. Please share with us some of your experience. If you ever tried that black hair on yourself and you're never gonna get back to that again, or did you find yourself in one of the later categories and you did try that black hair and it worked perfectly for you. And please write your parameters of coloration, because for other women it can be very useful information. I'm also gonna go through that. If you want to support me, you can whether click join button right here on YouTube and sponsor me, or you can sponsor me on Patreon. It's basically same thing. This is the only correct name on my Patreon on aahhaha. You'll get some exclusive videos and also early access to some of my videos. So I will see you very soon. Bye bye.